Welcome, folks. I'm Sam Faddis. This is Ground Truth, where we try to get past the hype and the spin and the nonsense that passes for news these days and talk about reality. Today we're talking about Afghanistan, victory, and Lawrence of Arabia. On September 11, 2001, 19 hijackers, all members of al-Qaida, seized control of 4 United States aircraft with the objective of crashing them into targets in the continental United States. One of those aircraft never made it to its target thanks to the actions of some incredibly brave passengers. One of them struck the Pentagon. 2 of them struck the World Trade Center. Almost 3,000 Americans died. In the aftermath of that attack, the entire gigantic United States defense establishment effectively seized up, incapable of formulating a timely and effective response. And so it fell to the Central Intelligence Agency to take the lead. 15 days after 9/11, the first CIA officers arrived in Afghanistan, flying in on an antiquated and only arguably airworthy Russian-manufactured helicopter. Over the next few months, working with Army Special Forces, follow-on CIA teams, U.S. Air Force, and NATO allies, they executed what is arguably the most brilliant military campaign in U.S. history since the Second World War. They crushed the Taliban, drove al-Qaida from the country. If they'd been given the support they requested at Tora Bora, they would have killed bin Laden right there and then. We had achieved total victory, achieved our objective. There remained only one thing to do: install a head man or head men, impress upon them that if there was ever a repetition of 9/11, we would return and once again rain fire and brimstone on their heads, and then go home. And then the bureaucracy woke up. Big DOD, big Army, big Washington. The bureaucrats flowed in, conventional forces flowed in, and we embarked upon the mad objective of transforming Afghanistan, which is only arguably a country in the first place, into Switzerland in Central Asia. It is 18 years later. We are no closer to achieving that objective than we were when we began. Along the way, we've gotten over 2,000 Americans killed, 20,000 plus wounded. Nobody has any idea how many Afghans have died. We have spent in excess of $1 trillion, some of it in ways that are so ludicrous it is difficult to know whether to laugh or to cry when contemplating them. Hundreds of millions of dollars on aircraft for the Afghan Air Force, which they could not fly and could not maintain, and which ultimately we paid to have torn apart and sold for scrap. We got $32,000 back for that scrap. We spent close to $500 million on the planes. We bought, paid for, and shipped to Afghanistan television broadcast equipment, the kind you see parked outside the Super Bowl, so the Afghans could broadcast matches of buzkashi, which is their national sport, sort of like polo, but basically a bunch of guys on horseback fighting over a stuffed goat carcass. We spent almost $40 million on a command center at Camp Leatherneck in Helmand Province, ostensibly for use by the United States Marines, but it wasn't finished till after the Marines had already withdrawn, turned it over to the Afghans, who never used it, and now it has been stripped of wiring, furniture, anything else that's not nailed down. Was never used for a single day. Lawrence of Arabia, who knew a little bit about fighting unconventional wars in distant, dirty, difficult places, used to say that the smaller the unit, the better its performance, by which he meant that when you're engaged in these kind of conflicts, You don't need generals, staffs, huge budgets, conventional formations. What you need are handfuls of the right men, laser focused on their objective, and cut loose to achieve that objective. We would do well to remember that now in Afghanistan and probably in any number of other locations where we are currently engaged. Send home the bureaucrats, in uniform and otherwise. Send home the accountants, the paper pushers, the contracting officers, and the program managers. Send home the social workers. Remember why we went there. Hand the job to a handful of the right individuals with the capacity and the authority to achieve that objective, and finish the job. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Ground Truth.